Welcome to this special episode of the Harpreet Singh Show. I'm your host Harpreet Singh from Surrey, British Columbia, and as it's the second Tuesday of the month, and we all know that during this time we have our co-host Dr. Arun Garg, and we get some special guest who talks about some important issue regarding health. So we are very privileged today to have Martina Ziska from Czechoslovakia, who is an Ayurvedic expert and about which Dr. Garg will just inform us soon. So let's get to both our guests and start our discussion. Dr. Garg and Martina, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Harpreet ji, and welcome to Martina. As
Thank you.
usual, it's my privilege to introduce our guest, a very special guest, Harpreet ji. I want to share with our listeners, as you know, we've been building for some years now our commitment for integrative thinking, integrative health, and healthy society. So I recently had the privilege of meeting Dr. Martina Ziska, who is a Ayurvedic scholar from Czechoslovakia. And in listening to her, I was impressed that she will make a very good guest for us. And the reason is that she represents this particular background, which is what we've been talking about, and that is the best of the East and the best of the West. So in her own right, she has a medical degree, medical doctorate in Czechoslovakia, and maybe she'll share with us how this all happened. But for some reason or another, some personal reasons, some family reasons, and just her own interest, she became interested in neurology. And from neurology, she went deeper into yoga science and Vedic science and Ayurvedic science. And for last 20, 25 years, she has made it her life mission to incorporate East and West thinking for better health. So currently, she is has her own institute, Ayurvedic Gurukula founder, a consultant Ayurvedic scholar, and she was visiting Vancouver as part of Ayurvedic awareness. So very pleased to have with us Dr. Ziska as our guest.
Wonderful. What a wonderful introduction. And of course, the kind of work that Dr. Ziska is doing is really commendable. So, Dr. Ziska, we'd like to start with you. First of all, of course, how did this transformation happen? Take us on this journey as to what prompted you to jump into this phase and what all you have been doing.
Well, it's hard to tell. Life leads us, and I believe life leads us from less wisdom to more wisdom. So, and I think this is relevant to all of us, to all paths. Life is about expansion. So for me, medicine has always been love affair to understand what's going on inside of people, how we work, how we function. And in modern medicine, the focus was on the problems. But I always felt that dealing with people, especially in neurology, because these are long-term diseases, so you spend lots of time with the patients. You sometimes with them for decades or long period of times to see how their conditions develop. It's not an acute medicine, really, in a way. Which suited me. I always like to observe. And what I have seen is that what happens in people's life influences their state of health and diseases. And in modern medicine, we don't have much place systematically to deal with it. So when I met first time Ayurveda, which was in 1990, just freshly out of medical school doing my neurology residency, it really took me by huge surprise. And I was very happy that I found a system that incorporates everything that happens in life into health. But the path, as usually in life, was not that easy. A few years after that, I moved to the US and I worked in the health factor doing Lyme disease research and education and clinical stuff. I even went to work for a pharmaceutical company until a point came in 1997 or 8 when I realized that the closest to my understanding and passion of medicine is the Ayurvedic view. So I made an effort to make a switch, and since 1999, I have been in my practice until today.
Wow.
And the path continues even there. The path went from focus on the physical aspect, then on the psychological and spiritual, actually. Because Ayurveda is a science that incorporates all of life. And we, besides the body, we are very much our thoughts, our habits, our emotions, our thinking, and our being. So that's really where I am at. And what I would like to do, my real desire, is to restore the psychological part into practice of Ayurveda, because even that was lost from the current understanding. We have, rightly so, a lot of focus on the physical aspect because that's where the problem manifests, but it's not always the case, and in majority of cases, this is not where the problems has started, where it originated. So it's usually in our way of understanding, thinking, life, and behaving. So that's why I really want to go into the root and bring that back into larger awareness of Ayurveda as a healthcare system.
Wow, wonderful. Well, in the 90s, when you decided to jump into this phase of your life where you are right now, how was the transition? How are you accepted by the medical fraternity? Because being a neurologist and then jumping into Ayurveda, did you find some resistance, or were you easily accepted?
This is a fantastic question and brings me back to that time. And it was very difficult because I faced resistance pretty much everywhere within my family. Everyone felt, I made such an effort to study medical school and to achieve a certain level of efficiency and even success there. So for them, it was unthinkable to leave for something that I said I have love for, but it was very unknown, and it seemed like a non-scientific folk kind of not established. And I was practicing in Connecticut, and I must say Connecticut at that time was a state that was very conservative. No one was practicing Ayurveda there. So there was even a thought that it's impossible to practice Ayurveda there. No one will be interested.
Right.
Medical profession, of course, people were saying, why would you do this? Why would you go from scientific to, in their eyes, non-scientific? And I got that here in the West, and I got that also in India, very interestingly, because in India at that time, educated people were telling me, don't leave modern medicine, try to find a way to combine them. Don't go to Ayurveda because this is our folk system and it does not have the weight and the value as the modern medicine. So everyone was telling me pretty much this is the wrong move. But
so what was there in you that kept you continuing with your passion, and how you came through all these barriers? Dr. Ziska, it's time for a break. We'll go for a break, and once we are back, we would like to learn from you as to what was the strength in you that kept you continuing and where you are today. So we'll be shortly back after this short break. Please keep on watching the show, and we'll be shortly back.
हर रंग है साडे को, हर मॉडल, हर एक दी अपनी वक्री पहचान। असीं एक परिवार हां, साडा कर्म है अगे वधाउणा, सफर नूं सौखा बनाउणा। बसंत मोटर्स, तुहाडे नाल, तुहाडे करके।
है जुल्म ढाने का अंदाज भी कितना हंसी, हमारी जान पर बनाई है जब जब उसने अंगड़ाई ली। कभी खामोश रहते हैं, कभी शोर होता है। मोहब्बत में शरारत का मजा कुछ और होता है। दिल को जज्बात का तोहफा, खामोशियों को बात का तोहफा, खूबसूरती में जड़ी नजाकत अदाओं की चांद से मुखड़े को चांद सा तोहफा।
भारत ज्वेलर्स, सच्चे प्यार की चमक जैसा। पाई बिजनेस सेंटर सरी।
ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਰੀ, ਡੈਲਟਾ, ਰਿਚਮੰਡ, ਐਬਸਫੋਰਡ ਜਾਂ ਵੈਂਕੂਵਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਵਾਂ ਘਰ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਬਾਰੇ ਸੋਚ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਪੁਰਾਣੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਰੈਨੋਵੇਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ? ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਤਜਰਬੇਕਾਰ ਬਿਲਡਰ, ਇੱਕ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਿਵ ਇੰਟੀਰੀਅਰ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਰ ਦੀ, ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਹੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਗਾਈਡ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਉਸਾਰ ਸਕਣ। ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜਾਂ ਸੰਦੀਪ 6048259295 ਉੱਤੇ।
ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਫਿਰ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ। ਦਿਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਇਜ਼ ਬੀਇੰਗ ਬ੍ਰੌਟ ਟੂ ਯੂ ਵਿਦ ਦ ਹੈਲਪ ਆਫ AMC ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ। ਹੋਮ, ਆਟੋ, ਟਰੈਵਲ, ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ, ਲਾਈਫ ਜਾਂ ਰਿਕ੍ਰੀਏਸ਼ਨਲ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ ਲੈਣ ਦੀ ਸੋਚ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ 9 ਬ੍ਰਾਂਚਸ ਨੇ ਲੋਅਰ ਮੇਨਲੈਂਡ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜੋ ਕਿ ਹਫਤੇ ਦੇ 7 ਦਿਨ ਖੁੱਲੀਆਂ ਰਹਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਰਵ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 604 507 6666 604 507 6666। ਸਾਡੇ ਅਗਲੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗੀ ਹਨ ਅਗਨੀਹੋਤਰੀ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ। ਟੈਂਪਰੇਰੀ ਸਟੇਟਸ PR, ਨਵੇਂ ਹੋ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ, ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀ ਹੋ, ਨਵੇਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ 'ਚ ਆਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਪਾਂਸਰ ਕਰਨੇ ਨੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਜਾਂ ਗ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ, ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਨੀਰਾ ਅਗਨੀਹੋਤਰੀ। 2006 ਤੋਂ ਸਰਟੀਫਾਈਡ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਕੰਸਲਟੈਂਟ ਵਜੋਂ ਇਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਓਨੈਸਟ ਤੇ ਰਿਲਾਇਬਲ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇਣਗੇ। ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 6045972284 604 597 2284। It's a great privilege and honor to have Dr. Martina Ziska with us today, who is a pioneer in the field of Ayurveda, and especially in the States. I would say what she's telling us is really commendable. So what was in her that kept her going on with where she is today? Let's learn more from Dr. Martina, and then we'll get Dr. Arun Garg also join in the discussion. So Dr. Ziska, if you could tell us what was your passion? How were you so strong from inside, though you had not much kind of support from your fraternity or even from your family, but you continued persisting and working on this field?
I think I had the time to reflect during the break for the answer. So it was my heart. I always loved medicine, and the Ayurvedic view was just larger and more natural for me. It was a better fit. But my mind wasn't sure, and my ego was broken. It was saying this is a wrong move. But somewhere deep, I had, and I still have, this deep desire to make my life one in unity. So my personal past, my personal understanding, and my professional journey is one and the same. In the Vedic system, we call this dharma. And I don't really know if this is my dharma, but it sure feels this is a path and this is a journey. So I just follow that.
Wonderful. Dr. Garg, Dr. Ziska is a prime example of where there is a will, there is a way, and despite issues and challenges, she is here while we are talking to her today. What would you say about her, what you have listened to her journey?
Well, it's wonderful to see that, as she said, whether it was her dharmic lineage or dharmic writings which kind of guided her, or whether it was just passion. However it may be, it shows that follow your heart, then you do get what you trying to do. And I think the work which she is doing, I think, is so applicable in today's world, and that's what I want to explore further with her, to get a little bit more insight, as you and I have been talking about integrative thinking. So Dr. Martina, share with us your insight of Ayurvedic system, why it makes it so unique, and what is the gap with the Western medicine, and how they can be complementary. Right at the outset, I would say, like you were alluding to, I think I'm a medical doctor, so obviously I'm a bit biased around Western medicine. However, I also know that there are gaps which needs to be filled. So there is acute care, but then there is this chronic care or healthy living, and this is where I find Ayurvedic principles really shine, and this is where I feel that Western medicine can really be, there is a gap in that chronic care, in community care. So could you share with us your perspective on how Ayurveda science, it is science, brings that body, mind, and intellect, and how it all comes together, concept of kosha and swast. So that'll be wonderful to hear from you, your perspective.
Well, I think the best way I can answer it is on two levels. One is very quickly practical, which goes along the lines how I went through the journey. and maybe I can hopefully bring it more into the conceptual way rather than the other way around. So as you were asking this, as you were talking, and I was reflecting, it came to my mind one situation when I was a neurology doctor. I worked at a university hospital, and I remember a 15-year-old boy who was hospitalized with epilepsy. And I remember that very distinctly because at that time I was 24 years old, so very young. So his parents were, of course, very disturbed. He was very disturbed by this because we know the consequences. You know, you cannot drive, have driving license, and all of that. And he was 15. So I remember the parents were with me alone, asking me all these questions about what is going to be the future development, and I did not have good answers. They were saying, "What can we do to support our son other than taking medicines? What can he do?" He was asking that himself. Is there something, some activities he should do? He shouldn't do some diet. How we can go to develop to create the best situation for him, for his health, and why did this happen? Why did he had the epileptic attack and all of that? And what I could answer to them was much better, what type of epilepsy, what we know about it, which was, and it still is not that much, what medicines to take, but I had no answers for this. And this was difficult for me because what I have seen, even working in a hospital and spending lots of time with the patients there who were hospitalized, is that what's going on in their life influences how they feel, if the disease takes a turn for worse or for the better. So I could see that what we live factors into our health or the disease. But in modern medicine, we focus so much on the disease and not that much on the person, and even on their larger life because of that. So when I met Ayurveda, I found all of this built into the system. So it was very satisfying. I found many answers that covered the gap, of course, but it also meant that the person who is in a need, sick, needs to make an effort. They have to be active participant in their health building or disease removal to whatever degree it is possible. And there I found limitations as well, because people would say, tell me what to do, I want to get well. But when we got into particulars, it was not so easy for them to follow those things. So years of practice and thousands of people working with have taught me that what is the most beneficial situation is what is written in the old Ayurvedic text, and that is when you are capable as a doctor to guide the person into their own proper understanding of their situation, to their own wisdom, because it is believed that our human existence, and therefore our health and disease as well, is a part of the larger existence of the earth, of the community, of the universe, if we want to take it even further. And that understanding, so there's a micro universe, and then we are sort of a micro, very small models of the same thing. So we all are governed in that by natural laws that are done by planets, by this movement of sun, by the movement of moon, and the waters and the airs, and all of that, the basic 5 elements, and how they influence us. So Ayurveda basically is, my understanding have developed through my past from looking at Ayurveda as a separate science, as something that is outside of us, to my current understanding that Ayurveda is observational science that observes nature of life and the rules and how life functions based on the natural rules. And it is here to help us to bring that understanding into practice. And by making those experiences, we see what supports us and what doesn't support us. And hopefully we are motivated to choose those beneficial things versus those not beneficial things. So, of course, it comes from India, but it's a universal science, and it's applicable everywhere. If you know the local, how the life is there by the climate and the place and what it all means, you can apply those basic rules to that local situation. And that is Ayurveda. And that is actually happening anywhere where people live in balance, whether they know it or they are not aware of it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful description of inner power. See, what I have called external influence, external interventions, and internal interventions. So if I may just go a little further, so to make it practical, because our passion is how to make people aware of this science, so then they could incorporate in their own living, so or in their own thinking and in their own health. So will it be fair to say that Ayurvedic science really allows you to look for and achieve self-empowerment? Because Western medicine has allowed us to relieve symptoms very quickly using pills or pharmacological agents, but it really is very passive interaction. So that is okay for acute care, but for chronic care and for other lifestyle, it's so important that you are part of the solution and you're integrated to it. So will it be fair to say that the principles of 5 elements and then the understanding of doshas and gunas, and then taking it further in relating it to who you are, mind and intellect, allows you that self-empowerment? And maybe you could expand a little bit further on the role of mana and prana and vijnana, the koshas, the concept of different bodies, and how that relates to empowerment.
Wow. A lot of questions loaded to you, Dr. Ziska. So before I let you on and answer these questions, let's go for a short break. We'll be back and learn from your wisdom what Dr. Garg has asked. So we'll be shortly back and we'll continue with the discussion. And along with that, I'll also add, great strides are being made by organizations like Canada India Network Society to bring the concept of integrative thinking that supports Western medicine. So this culmination of thinking of the best of the East and the West is coming together, and kudos to Dr. Garg for taking these initiatives and bringing it to the common people. So we'll be shortly back and we'll continue with our discussion.
ਘਰ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੀ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਸੁਨਹਿਰੀ ਪਲ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰਿਆ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਤੀਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਪੂਰੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਦ ਕਿਸੇ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਨੂੰ ਸਜੇ ਹੋਏ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਬਦਲਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ। ਨਵੇਂ ਘਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਰੇਮਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ਿੰਗ ਤੱਕ, ਡ੍ਰੇਪਰੀ, ਪੇਂਟਿੰਗਸ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਡੈਕੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਅਸੈਸਰੀਜ਼ ਤੱਕ, ਤੁਸੀਂ SK ਹੋਮ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੁਪਨਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਹਕੀਕਤ 'ਚ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ ਸੰਦੀਪ ਕੌਰ 6048259295।
ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸਮੈਨ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕੀ ਵਜ੍ਹਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ? ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਮੋਟਰਸ ਦੇ ਓਨਰ ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਸਮਝ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇੰਟੈਲੀਜੈਂਸ ਦਾ ਉਦਾਹਰਨ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਾਰ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਖ ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਮੋਟਰਸ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਸਰੀ ਦਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਟਰੱਕ ਸੈਂਟਰ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲੋੜ ਦੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੋੜੀਂਦੇ ਟਰੱਕਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਗਾਈਡੈਂਸ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸਪੇਸ ਮੋਡੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਫਿਊਲ ਐਫੀਸ਼ੀਐਂਸੀ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਧਿਆਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਟਰੱਕ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਟਰੱਕਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਟੌਰ।
ਵੈਨਕਾਸਾ ਟਾਈਲ ਅਤੇ ਸਟੋਨ ਸ਼ੋਰੂਮ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਹੋਲਸੇਲ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਹਰ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀਆਂ ਟਾਈਲਸ, ਸਟੋਨ, ਮਾਰਬਲ, ਬੈਕਸਪਲੈਸ਼, ਮੋਜ਼ੇਕ ਆਦਿ ਵਾਜਬ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਮਿਲ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਟਾਲੀਅਨ, ਸਪੈਨਿਸ਼, ਚਾਈਨੀਜ਼ ਪੋਰਸਲਨ ਜਾਂ ਸਿਰੈਮਿਕ ਟਾਈਲਸ ਜਾਂ ਮਾਰਬਲ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਆਰਡਰ ਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਕਲੀਅਰੈਂਸ ਤੇ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਮਾਲਕ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟ ਟਾਈਲਸ ਇੰਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ, ਜਿਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਵਧੀਆ ਕੁਆਲਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਨ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਿੰਗਾਰ ਬਣਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਕਰੋ 1304 84 ਐਵਨਿਊ ਸਰੀ। ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 604 330 7363 604 330 7363। Once again, welcome back to the program, and it's a great honor to have Dr. Martina Ziska and Dr. Arun Garg with us. And it's a very important aspect which we are touching today because, as I talked before also, that great strides are being made. People are getting aware how to live a holistic health. And I think this program with Dr. Ziska will definitely empower you more to understand how to live your life your way. So, Dr. Ziska, if you could answer Dr. Garg's question, and then we'll continue with the discussion further.
That wasn't a question, that was a universe. It was such a huge question. But luckily we had a break so I could think about how to approach it. And I think let me start from the end of your question. And that is, I believe that what motivates all of us in every situation is that we believe whatever we do, that at the end of whatever happens, we are going to feel good. So feeling good is the biggest motivation for our behavior. And we go usually through life in trial and error way. We think if we do this, this is going to be the result, the good outcome. If it doesn't happen, smart people don't repeat it and look for another ways. But there is also another way, and that is to learn how things are, because there are people ahead of us who have the experiences and who have the understanding that can help us in that. So we don't have to discover everything by ourselves. And what we really want, whether we're aware or not about that, we want to feel good permanently, not only once in a while and in this way of I have to do something to feel good. And all these Vedic sciences and all good sciences have the common understanding that it is our right to feel good permanently. But this is only possible when we are, I can say it in a very popular way, when we are in a groove, so to speak. You know, when things are happening by themselves easy, everything is going smoothly. Just imagine you take a morning drive for your work and you get the green light zone and there's no delays anywhere, and you just easily gliding through your paths of life. This is where we all want to get. And our experience shows us that the best way to get there is to understand how things work. And the way to understanding is to learn, and that's from the systems that have that understanding. Ayurveda is that, but there's yoga, there are other Vedic sciences, and there are other systems that touch on parts of that understanding. However, Ayurveda is the original and most complete system from which the other systems came. TCM came, about 1,500 years later. Homeopathy came even further along. And those are the three complete system of traditional health recognized by the World Health Organization. Everything else is individual modalities that contribute, but not as a whole system. So when we see that when we do something, we create a good situation for ourselves, whether in relationships, in choices we make in life, or in our health, this brings the feeling of power. This brings the experience. It's not only feeling, it's the experience. When I see, if I do this, it will result directly in me alleviating my suffering and feeling better. And this is the true empowerment. It's a rather complex thing because in the understanding, it's built in the experience, it's built in our what we were taught, growing up, what the society is telling us, our personal preferences, desires, strengths and weaknesses. And usually what motivates us, and I think this needs to be brought into the discussion to be fair, this was also a factor in my personal journey, is the suffering. The suffering, the dissatisfaction, the problems are very strong motivational power for us to look for a better, more effective, more empowering, which in effect is easier way because it's a natural way.
Well, a wonderful
Wonderful.
answer, and I think we can do a separate program on this, what you have touched. But as time will not permit us to further talk on this issue, but definitely, Dr. Ziska, you are the author of Ahara, a practical guide in Ayurveda and the Ayurveda kitchen, which you talk about. We are finding that physical and mental ailments are on the rise. People are stressed out. And while we are out of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, but obesity, mental health crisis, cardiovascular diseases, neurological issues, they are on the rise. So from your perspective, if you could just give us some guidelines to a common person as to in his daily lifestyle, what kind of changes they need to bring in so that they can live that wholesomeness, what you are talking about.
I'm just going to go by a summary of the experience of what I have seen dealing with, 20,000 people in my individual practice individually. What were the most common issues? So first and foremost, there are two aspects in health we can speak, and one is your energy, and the second is the metabolism. So prana, life energy, and second would be agni, and they go hand to hand. So they both work the best, and nothing can be accomplished if we don't have some regularity. And regularity means to be aligned with the natural clock of the nature. There is a lot of research emerging. I think last few years there was in physiology even Nobel Prize given for discovery how the circadian daily clock relates to our physiology and how important it is. Because if we don't do that, we're going strongly against the current and strongly against what is beneficial for us. So it's like if you're doing lots of good things for yourself, but you don't do them in the scope of what is natural within the day. And that means the main pillars are the time you go to sleep, which determines the time you wake up, and then the times you eat, which is really set up by your hunger, natural hunger, which is in line with the sun, the activity of sun. These are true for all of us, regardless of how different we are, what are our individualities. There is, of course, individual variation, but the basis is the same. So if you don't do this, all your good efforts might be like you need to bring water and you bringing water with a sifter. So the water is just going right through. Your efforts are not having a chance to bring you good benefit, good effect, good result. So this is the first one. And it's very closely related to the second one. So wherever people want to start, it's their thing. I think everyone knows where everyone is aware. I have not seen a single person when I ask them this question that they would not be clear on where they can make an improvement right now. Everyone is aware of that. The question is why we are not doing it, which is a little more complex issue. But the second one is calmness. And calmness comes from being turned with focus inwardly, because the world with what's going on is very dynamic, very unstable. We might say even chaotic. Some people even feel it out of control. There are so many changes happening so fast right now. The stabilities, the securities that we used to have are gone. They are crumbling. So there is a big change, big transition going on. And it's like a swift current. And if we let that current to carry us, we get easily into confusion. Just take recommendations for what is beneficial for you to eat. There's so many recommendations, but they contradict each other. So what do you choose? Who to believe? How to, in every of this situation, how you orient yourself, how you make choices. Choice is our biggest personal power that we have. So we need to have a good method for ourselves to make a good choices. What do you trust is part of that. And it's good to trust yourself because you have yourself always with yourself. But you need to also recognize whether what you are feeling or what you are thinking, what you want to choose, comes out of the natural order or it comes out of chaos. And so to restoring natural order, which means calm and peace, which means turn your attention inwardly to what your body is saying, what you are feeling, what your needs are, developing that sensitivity and that focus. For which you have to unplug from your focus on the outside, which is very difficult because senses are drawn to the outside. For that, we usually need some practice, either in yoga or other ways, just to support it and cultivate that. Those two are necessary for us to have some map or conditions to be in a situation to be able to recognize what are good choices and what are not so good choices.
Wow, excellent, Dr. Garg. That's
Wonderful.
wonderful.
I think very beautiful summary. I think because I purposefully raised the awareness through this question, so thank you very much for that. I think the challenges, practical challenges, awareness, and I think we need to have more conversations like this so people
Very true.
themselves are more aware of it. And that's the purpose of this program. And I know you are on a mission to carry that message. And thank you for coming all the way from Czechoslovakia, Republic of Czechoslovakia, and carrying this mission and a vision. So we really thank you. And if you have one parting word for local here, how could we increase this awareness? Especially, how do we increase incorporating some of this in regular health programs? Any ideas or any observations?
Well, I haven't been here long enough to really, kind of go deep into the structure. But I think my experience is that any good effort matters. So I came here to see what's going on in Ayurveda. I met certain people. Through those certain people, I heard you talk. Then you heard me talk, and then we are here. So this is how it goes. We are all beacons of life. We are all perfect beings. We all desire good life. And through sharings like these, good efforts, we all contribute. Everyone contributes. Even the people who say, I don't know how to go about it, contribute because they force us to think about how to discover a way that works for them. And we learn from that. So you can learn from pretty much any situation if you like that, if you like to observe what's going on. And what I have observed very briefly is you live in an incredibly natural, beautiful environment, but the elements here are very strong. The ocean is strong, the sun is strong, the winds are strong, the light is extremely strong and bright. So maybe one has to account for these influences, how to soften that influence in one's life. And of course, food can always be better, more in line. I don't know what's the typical Canadian diet. Probably doesn't exist such a thing. I have seen many ethnic ways and communities. So it again goes back to understanding the foundation of how things work and to be able to apply them to any community or any situation. And that is feasible through, sharing, communication, being open, being curious, and I think that's what we all doing. So I want to commend you for doing your work. It sounds wonderful, and thank you very much for being able to be part of it and contribute.
Right. Absolutely. What you have said is very important. And Dr. Arun Garg and Dr. Ziska, it was a pleasure having both of you, and thank you for sparing your valuable time. But this is not the end of it. This is just the beginning. You have so much wisdom in this particular field. We would like to get you again back so that we are able to spread some more wisdom of yours to our common public over here in Canada, and especially all the South Asians who are watching all over the world. So once again, thank you very much, and it was a pleasure having you over in this studio today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garg, for getting Dr. Ziska. Thank you.
Yeah. No,
ਸੋ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਸਮਾਪਤੀ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਾਥ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਮੰਡੇ ਟੂ ਫਰਾਈਡੇ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦੇ 6 ਵਜੇ ਪੈਸੀਫਿਕ ਸਟੈਂਡਰਡ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਾਬਿਕ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦਾ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਬਣਨਾ ਚਾਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ 6046037555 or you can email me at harpreetsingh@gmail.com. So thank you very much for sparing your valuable time and being a part of this program. Once again, thank you and see you soon. Have a safe evening, stay healthy and enjoy yourself.